The rain hammered the roof of the old Victorian in whispering pines like it was trying to drown the whole damn town. But inside, the bed was a sanctuary of worn flannel sheets and the faint scent of pine from the woods outside. Ethan Harper stirred in the dark, his body heavy with the kind of exhaustion that came from chopping firewood all day and pretending his marriage wasn't cracking like the frost on the windows. A soft creak from the floorboards made him mumble into his pillow, "Sarah? That you, babe?" The sheets rustled, and then a warm body slid under the covers, pressing close. Too close, the curve of a hip against his thigh, a breath hot on his neck that smelled of whiskey and something earthier, like the salt of the sea. He reached out, fingers brushing smooth skin, and whispered, "Missed you." But when the figure turned into the sliver of moonlight, Ethan's heart slammed to a stop. It wasn't his wife staring back at him with those storm-gray eyes. It was Caleb. Ethan bolted upright, the mattress groaning under him like it shared his shock, his hand yanking back as if head touched a live wire. Caleb Thorne, his brother-in-law, for Christ's sake, lay there frozen, shirtless in the dim light, his chest rising and falling too fast. The tattoo of a compass rose over his left pec, inked in faded black lines that Ethan had seen 100 times at family barbecues, but never like this, never inches away in the sacred space of his marital bed. "What the hell, Cal?" Ethan's voice cracked, low and ragged, the words tasting like betrayal even as they spilled out. Caleb didn't move, just held those eyes, gray as the Atlantic fog rolling in from the coast. Locked on Ethan's, a mix of defiance and something softer, something that made Ethan's stomach twist in ways he didn't want to name. "I couldn't sleep," Caleb said finally, his voice a gravelly murmur that cut through the rain like a knife. He sat up slowly, the sheet pooling at his waist, revealing the lean muscles honed from years hauling lobster traps on his father's weathered boat. At 32, Caleb was the kind of guy who looked like he belonged in a flannel catalog. Broad shoulders, sun-bleached hair cropped close at the sides, a jaw that could cut glass if it wasn't softened by that perpetual half-smile that hid a lifetime of quiet storms. But tonight there was no smile, just raw need, etched into the lines around his mouth. "Sarah's still at her sister's in Portland. Said she'd be back tomorrow. I saw the light on. Thought maybe you needed company." Ethan swung his legs over the side of the bed, his bare feet hitting the cold pine floorboards with a thud that echoed his pulse. The room spun for a second, walls papered in faded floral from the 70s. The antique dresser Sarah's grandmother had left them. The framed photo of their wedding on the nightstand where she smiled in white lace and he looked like a man playing house. This was Whispering Pines, Maine. A speck of a town where everyone knew your business before you did. Where the lobster shacks dotted the harbor like buoys and the winters buried you alive if you let them. Ethan had grown up here, son of a lobsterman who drank himself into an early grave, and had clawed his way to a life that looked stable on paper. A wife, a hardware store he co-owned with his cousin, a mortgage on this creaky house with the view of the pines that whispered secrets at night. But stable was a lie. Sarah had been pulling away for months, her laughter rarer than a sunny day in January, her touches mechanical, like she was going through motions she'd forgotten the script for. And Caleb. God, Caleb had always been the wild card. Sarah's younger brother, the one who'd dropped out of community college to chase waves down in California before washing back up here 5 years ago, smelling of salt and regret. Head crashed on their couch more times than Ethan could count, the two of them bonding over late-night beers on the porch, talking about everything and nothing, how the ocean took more than it gave, how small-town life chewed you up if you didn't fight back. There was an ease there, a rhythm, that Ethan had chalked up to brotherhood. But now, with Caleb sitting on his bed like head just claimed territory, Ethan felt the ground shift under him. "You need to go," Ethan said, but his voice lacked conviction, his eyes flicking to the door and back. The rain picked up, drumming harder, and thunder rumbled distant, like a warning. Caleb didn't budge. Instead, he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, the muscles in his arms flexing unconsciously. "Go where, Ethan? It's pouring cats and dogs out there. And anyway," he trailed off, swallowing hard, his Adam's apple bobbing in the hollow of his throat. "You looked so alone tonight, standing in the kitchen, staring at that bottle of bourbon like it held all the answers. I know that look. I've worn it. Ethan rubbed a hand over his face, the stubble rasping against his palm. He was 35, fair-skinned with those hazel eyes that Sarah used to call woods at dusk. His body still solid from manual labor, but starting to soften around the middle from too many skipped gym days and stress-eating takeout from the diner. Had always been the steady one, the guy who fixed leaky roofs and mended fences, literal and figurative. But lately, the fences were crumbling. Sarah's job at the library in Ellsworth meant long hours, and when she came home, it was with a sigh and a headache. The spark between them dimmed to embers. Sex had become a chore, a box to check, and Ethan lay awake wondering if Head ever felt truly seen. "I am alone," he admitted, the words slipping out before he could cage them. He glanced at Caleb, expecting pity, but what he saw was understanding. Deep, aching, like a mirror held up to his soul. "Sarah, she's drifting. We both are. But this? You crawling in here like what? You think this fixes anything?" Caleb's laugh was bitter, short. "Fixes? Hell, Ethan, I'm not here to fix. I'm here because I can't pretend anymore." He stood then, all 6 feet of him unfolding like a wave crashing, and stepped closer, the air between them thickening with the scent of rain-soaked cotton from his jeans, still clinging to his legs. Ethan should have backed away, should have shoved him toward the door, but his feet stayed rooted, his breath catching as Caleb's hand, calloused from ropes and nets, hovered near his arm, not touching, just close enough to feel the heat. "Pretend what?" Ethan whispered, though he knew. The late nights when Caleb would linger after Sarah went to bed, their conversations veering into dangerous territory. Dreams deferred, the what-ifs of lives unlived. The way Caleb's gaze would linger a beat too long on Ethan's mouth when he laughed, or how Ethan would find himself watching the flex of Caleb's back as he helped unload supplies at the store. It was nothing, Head told himself. Bromance. But lies had a way of rotting from the inside. "That every time I look at you, it's her I'm seeing," Caleb said, his voice breaking on the edge of a confession. "That the reason I came back to this godforsaken town wasn't the lobsters or the family. It was you. Always you." The room tilted. Ethan felt the world narrow to the space between them, the rain a relentless roar outside, drowning out the rational part of his brain screaming to stop this madness. But the other part, the one starved for touch that meant something, for eyes that saw him whole, leaned in, just a fraction, and Caleb's hand finally made contact, fingers grazing Ethan's jaw, rough and tender all at once. They didn't kiss. Not then. But in that touch, something fractured inside Ethan, a fault line cracking open to the truth Head buried under layers of normalcy. He pulled back first, heart pounding like a trapped animal, and pointed to the door. "Get out, Cal. Before we both do something we can't undo." Caleb nodded once, his eyes glistening in the low light. Not tears, but close enough to make Ethan's chest ache. He grabbed his shirt from the floor, shrugging it on with movements that were too deliberate, too controlled. At the threshold, he paused, hand on the knob. "You deserve more than pretending, Ethan. We both do." The door clicked shut behind him, and Ethan collapsed back onto the bed, the sheets still warm from Caleb's body, mocking him with the ghost of what almost was. Sleep didn't come. Instead, memories flooded in, hoary and insistent. The summer Caleb had returned from the West Coast, tanned and tattooed, crashing their 4th of July cookout with a 6-pack and stories of surf breaks in Big Sur. Sarah had hugged him tight, whispering about how Shed missed her little brother, the one who'd always been the dreamer while she played the pragmatist. Ethan had clapped him on the back, feeling that easy camaraderie, the kind that made family feel like home. But there were other moments, sharper now in retrospect. The winter storm 2 years back when the power went out for 3 days, and the 3 of them huddled by the fireplace, passing a bottle of scotch. Sarah had dozed off against Ethan's shoulder, but Caleb had stayed awake, his voice low as he talked about the emptiness of chasing horizons that never satisfied. "It's like the ocean's endless, but you're still just treading water," Head said. and Ethan had nodded, feeling seen in a way Sarah's affections never quite reached. That night, when Sarah stirred and pulled Ethan closer, head caught Caleb watching, not jealous, but yearning. Ethan had dismissed it as the booze, the cold seeping through the walls. Now, alone in the dark, Ethan traced the path of Caleb's fingers on his skin, a phantom burn that woke something primal. He thought of Sarah, her soft curves and the way she hummed old folk tunes while folding laundry, the woman who'd stood by him through his father's funeral and the lean years starting the store. She was his anchor, wasn't she? The one constant in a life of shifting tides. But anchors could drag you under if the chain rusted. By dawn, the rain had eased to a drizzle, the sky a bruised gray over the pines. Ethan dragged himself to the kitchen, brewing coffee strong enough to strip paint, the routine a lifeline. The store opened at 8, Harrington Hardware, a clapboard building on Main Street with aisles of nails, paints, and dreams deferred. He and his cousin Jake ran it, slinging advice to fishermen fixing boats and handymen patching roofs. It was honest work, grounding, but today it felt like a cage. Caleb showed up at 9, strolling in with a paper cup from the diner and that half-smile back in place. Like the night before was a dream head shaken off. "Morning, boss," he drawled, leaning on the counter where Ethan was restocking screws. No mention of the bed, the touch, the words that hung between them like smoke. Ethan grunted, avoiding those eyes. Grabbed the lumber out back. Got a rush order for the miller's porch. They worked in silence mostly, the air thick with unspoken weight. Caleb hauled boards with ease, sweat beading on his forehead despite the chill, and Ethan caught himself staring at the way his shirt clung, the corded strength in his forearms. Shame burned hot in his gut, but so did curiosity, a forbidden spark. By lunch, Sarah called. "Hey, Han. Traffic's a nightmare. Might stay another night. Help Mom with the garden." Her voice was light, but Ethan heard the distance, the relief in her tone at the extra space. "Yeah, okay. Love you," he said, automatic as breathing. "Love you too." Click. Caleb appeared then, wiping his hands on a rag. "She okay?" Ethan shrugged, the lie easy. "Fine. Just family stuff." That night, Sarah still gone, Ethan found himself at the harbor, the salt air sharp on his tongue. Caleb was there, mending nets on the dock, the boat rocking gently. They shared a beer, feet dangling over the edge, the water black and endless below. "You ever think about leaving?" Caleb asked, voice lost in the lap of waves. "All the time," Ethan admitted. "But where? This is home." Caleb turned, his profile sharp against the sunset. "Home isn't a place, Ethan. It's the thing that keeps you from drowning." Their eyes met, and this time Ethan didn't look away. The spark ignited, slow and inevitable. And when Caleb's hand brushed his knee, accidental, maybe, Ethan felt the world tilt again. Back home, the bed felt too big, too empty. Ethan lay awake, replaying the touch, the gaze, the confession. By midnight, he was pacing, the floor cold underfoot. The door creaked open. Not the wind, but footsteps. Caleb, silhouette in the hall, eyes questioning. "Don't," Ethan said, but it was weak, and Caleb crossed the room anyway, stopping inches away. "I can't stop," Caleb whispered. "Tell me to leave and I will. For good." Ethan didn't. Instead, he closed the gap, their mouths crashing together in a kiss that tasted of salt and desperation. Hands fumbling with shirts, skin on skin for the first time. It was messy, urgent. Caleb's fingers in his hair, Ethan's nails digging into his back. A release of years pent up. They fell onto the bed, bodies aligning in ways Ethan had never imagined. Every touch a revelation. Every gasp a confession. After, lying tangled in sheets that smelled of them, Ethan traced the compass on Caleb's chest. "What now?" Caleb kissed his temple. "Now we figure it out. Together." But dawn brought clarity and fear. Sarah would be home soon. The town would talk. And Ethan, staring at the ceiling, wondered if Head just traded one cage for another. The guilt hit Ethan like a rogue wave the next morning, slamming him awake with the taste of regret and the ache of muscles used in new ways. Caleb was gone when he stirred, slipped out before first light, leaving only a crumpled note on the kitchen table. "Coffee's on. We'll talk later." See scrawled in that looping script, casual as if Head borrowed a tool instead of borrowing Ethan's sanity. Ethan crumpled it in his fist, the paper biting into his palm, and poured a mug black as the harbor at midnight. The brew scalded his tongue, but he welcomed the pain, something real to anchor him while his mind spun wild. Sarah arrived at noon, her Subaru crunching gravel in the drive, arms laden with grocery bags and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Missed you," she said, pecking his cheek, her perfume, lavender and vanilla, cloying after the raw musk of the night before. Ethan hugged her back, stiff as a board, inhaling the familiarity like a drowning man gulping air. She chattered about her mom's tomato plants and the traffic on I-95, oblivious, while he nodded, words sticking in his throat like fishhooks. Dinner was lobster rolls from the shack, butter slick buns, chunks of tail meat Ethan had helped haul in, and they ate on the porch, the pines sighing in the breeze. Sarah's foot nudged his under the table, a habit from happier days, but it felt foreign now, a reminder of the role he was failing at. "You okay?" she asked, tilting her head, her brown curls catching the golden hour light. At 34, she was still beautiful, soft curves, freckles across her nose like constellations, but the spark in her green eyes had faded, replaced by a weary practicality. "Yeah, just tired," Ethan lied, forcing a grin. Store was slammed. Jake's talking about expanding the tool rental. She hummed, picking at her roll. "Good. We could use the extra cash. Bills are piling up." A pause. Heavy. "Ethan, we need to talk about us. Lately, it feels like we're roommates." His fork clattered against the plate. "What do you mean?" She set her napkin down, folding it precise. "I mean the spark's gone. We haven't connected in months. I love you, but am lonely. Are you?" The question hung, a blade poised. Ethan thought of Caleb's hands on him, the way his body had arched into touches that lit him up like dry tinder. "I am," he said, voice rough, "but I don't know how to fix it." "Me neither." Tears welled, but she blinked them back. Maybe counseling? Or time apart? The idea of time apart terrified him. Space for secrets to fester. But he nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, whatever you need." She leaned over, kissing him soft, and he kissed back, chasing the ghost of what they'd been. It was tender, familiar, but when she pulled away, Ethan felt hollow, the warmth fleeting. That night, they made love, slow, deliberate, her sighs muffled against his shoulder. It was comfortable, like slipping into an old sweater, but as he moved inside her, Ethan's mind betrayed him, flashing to Caleb's gray eyes, the scrape of stubble, the low groan that had unraveled him. Guilt surged, hot and nauseating, and he finished too quick, rolling off with apologies. Sarah curled into him, asleep in minutes, while he stared at the ceiling, the rain starting up again like judgment from the skies. Caleb avoided the store the next day, sending a text, "Out on the boat. Catch you later." Ethan hammered nails into a display rack with more force than needed, the clang echoing his turmoil. Jake noticed, clapping his shoulder. "Rough night, cuz? You look like you wrestled a bear." "Something like that," Ethan muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Jake, big, bearded, with a laugh like thunder, was family, blood thick as the Maine mud, but even he couldn't breach this chasm. By evening, Ethan found himself at the Thorns' old place, a saltbox cottage on the bluff, shingles curling like ancient scrolls. Caleb was on the deck, nursing a beer, the ocean stretching endless below. He looked up as Ethan approached, relief flickering in his eyes before caution schooled it. "Figured you'd come," Caleb said, handing over a bottle. They clinked, the glass cold against Ethan's palm. "Needed to." Ethan leaned on the rail, the wood splintery under his forearms. "Last night, Sarah's home. Things are messy." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Regret it?" "No." The word came fierce, surprising them both. "But I'm scared. Of her finding out. Of me. Figuring out what it means." Caleb stepped closer, the heat of him a magnet. "It means you're alive, Ethan. Feeling something real for once." His hand found Ethan's nape, thumb stroking the tension there. "I've loved you since the day Sarah brought you home for Thanksgiving. All awkward grins and sawdust on your jeans. Thought it was hero worship. Then it wasn't." Ethan turned, their faces inches apart, breaths mingling. "Why me? When you could have anyone? Because you see me. Not the fuck-up brother. Not the guy who ran." Caleb's voice dropped, husky. "You." The kiss started soft, exploratory. Lips brushing, testing. Then deepened, Caleb's tongue tracing the seam of Ethan's mouth until he opened, a moan escaping. Hands roamed. Ethan's under Caleb's shirt, mapping the ridges of abs. Caleb's tugging Ethan's belt loose, palming him through denim until he buckled. They stumbled inside, the cottage dim and cluttered with nets and charts, tumbling onto the lumpy couch in a tangle of limbs. It was different this time, less frantic, more deliberate. Caleb took his time, kissing down Ethan's chest, nipping at collarbone, navel, until his mouth closed over him, hot and sure. Ethan gasped, fingers threading Caleb's hair, the sensation overwhelming, a coil tightening low.
Cal. Fuck.
He came undone with a shudder, Caleb swallowing every pulse, eyes locked on his the whole time, vulnerable, adoring. Later, spent and sated, they lay with Caleb's head on Ethan's chest, the rhythm of waves lulling them. "This could ruin everything," Ethan murmured, tracing ink lines. "Or make it," Caleb replied, voice sleepy. "Stay tonight." "I can't." But he did anyway. Slipping home at dawn, Sarah still asleep, the lie stacking like cordwood. Days blurred into a dangerous rhythm. Mornings with Sarah, polite and strained. Afternoons stealing glances at Caleb when he dropped by the store for supplies. Nights when shed work late and head drive to the cottage, losing himself in Caleb's arms. Each encounter peeled back layers. Caleb's stories of California heartbreaks, a boyfriend who'd left him for the city lights. Ethan's confessions of boyhood crushes on the high school quarterback, buried deep under football fields and family expectations. But cracks formed. Sarah grew distant, her eyes sharper, catching the way Ethan checked his phone. One night, over meatloaf, she confronted him. "Who's texting you at 2 a.m.? Ethan? And don't say Jake." His blood ran cold. "Just a supplier. New vendor from Portland." She searched his face, then nodded, but the trust was frayed. "I want to believe you, but we're drifting further." That same night, after she turned away in bed, Ethan texted Caleb, "Harbor, now." They met under the pier, shadows long in the moonlight, the water slapping pilings. "She's suspicious," Ethan said, pacing. "We have to cool it." Caleb's face crumpled. "Cool it?" "Ethan, this is us. Real. Real gets us divorced, shunned. This town's small, Cal. People talk. Fuck the town." Caleb grabbed his shirt, pulling him close. "I love you. Say it back." The words lodged in Ethan's throat. A stone.
Icare.
"More than I should." Hurt flashed in Caleb's eyes. Raw. "Not enough." He kissed him fierce anyway, bruising, then shoved away. "Go home to her. But don't pretend this isn't tearing you apart." Ethan watched him stalk off, the silhouette swallowed by fog, chest heaving. Back home, Sarah was awake, sitting in the kitchen with tea. "Couldn't sleep?" "Nah." He sat across the table, a chasm. "Sarah, do you still love me?" She stirred her mug, steam curling. I do. But love isn't enough if we're both lost. Tears spilled. I met someone at the library conference. He's kind, listens. It started as coffee. But the world grayed. Betrayal sharp as a gut hook. How long? Month. Nothing physical. Yet. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, but you're somewhere else too. Ethan stood, numb. I need air. He walked out into the night, pines whispering accusations, driving straight to Caleb's door. Caleb answered shirtless, hair rumpled. Ethan, take me to bed.
No preamble.
Caleb did, their bodies colliding in a storm of need and hurt, Ethan pouring his pain into every thrust, every bite, until they collapsed, slick and spent. Tell me you love me, Caleb demanded, voice muffled against his neck. I love you, Ethan whispered, the truth breaking free like a wave, and in that moment it was. But morning brought no peace, only the specter of choices looming, the town closing in, and a heart split between duty and desire. The affair bloomed in secret like night jasmine in the pines, fragrant, intoxicating, but doomed to wilt under the sun's glare. Ethan and Caleb carved out stolen hours. Dawn runs along the bluff where their hands brushed mid-stride, the salt spray masking sweat. Lunch breaks in the store's back room, door locked, Caleb's mouth on his neck while Ethan stifled moans against a stack of paint cans. Each touch deepened the bond, Caleb's quiet intensity drawing out Ethan's hidden self. The boy who'd once dreamed of art school before lobsters and legacy called him back. Sarah's revelation hung over them like coastal fog, thickening every interaction. She didn't leave, didn't demand more. Instead, they fell into a brittle truce, sharing meals with forced chatter about weather and bills, sleeping back-to-back in a bed that felt like a battlefield. Ethan caught her texting late, her face softening in ways it hadn't for him in years, and the jealousy stung. Not just for the loss, but for the freedom she was grasping while he clung to chains. One crisp October afternoon, with leaves turning the hills to fire, Caleb invited him to the cottage for supper. Ethan arrived to find the table set, candles flickering against the dusk, a pot of clam chowder simmering, cornbread golden from the oven. Fancy? Ethan teased, shedding his jacket, but his voice caught at the vulnerability in Caleb's eyes. Needed to do something normal, feel like we're more than sneaking around. Caleb pulled him into a hug, long and grounding, before serving bowls steaming with chunks of potato and tender meat. They ate cross-legged on the rug, backs to the couch, the chowder rich and creamy, evoking boyhood suppers after halls. Tell me about your coffee guy, Ethan said suddenly, spoon midway. The one who's got Sarah smiling. Caleb paused, brow furrowing. You sure? Yeah. Need to know what I'm up against. Like, he knew it was more about understanding his own unraveling. Caleb sighed, setting his bowl down. He's a teacher from Bangor. Divorced, 2 kids. Met him at a reading group. Turns out he's into poetry, same as Sarah. Said he's steady. Makes her laugh without trying. Ethan nodded, the words a dull ache. Sounds perfect. Unlike me. Stop. Caleb shifted closer, hand on his thigh. You're not the villain here. We're all just human. Messy. The conversation veered, as it always did, to them. How Caleb's first kiss had been with a surfer boy at 16, stolen behind dunes, ending in confusion and a black eye from his dad's belt when rumors flew. Knew then I was different, Caleb said, voice low. But here, in whispering pines, different gets you whispered about or worse. Ethan traced his knuckles, pale against Caleb's tan skin. Ever hate it? The hiding. Every day. But you make it worth it. Caleb's kiss was slow, deepening as hands wandered, bowls forgotten. They made love on the rug, firelight dancing over sweat-slick bodies. Ethan on top this time, learning the rhythm, the way Caleb arched and whispered his name like a prayer. It was reverent, exploratory, ending in shared release that left them boneless, breaths sinking like tides. After, wrapped in a quilt, Caleb murmured, "Move in with me, after you tell her." Ethan's heart stuttered. "It's not that simple. The store, the house. Sell. Start over. Portland's got galleries if you want to paint again. Or we boat south. Chase warmer waters." The dream tempted, vivid. Waking to Caleb's coffee, hands intertwined on deck rails, a life unscripted. But fear clawed back. What if I can't? If I'm not enough? Caleb's eyes blazed. "You're everything." That night, Ethan slept at home, Sarah's side cold again. She at a book club that smelled of lies. Guilt gnawed, but so did resolve. He had to end the limbo. The next week brought the town's annual harvest fair. Booths of cider and pies, hayrides through pumpkin patches, the harbor strung with lights like stars fallen to earth. Ethan manned the store's booth, hawking toolkits wrapped in raffia, while Caleb volunteered at the lobster toss, his laugh carrying over the crowd. Sarah was there too, arm linked with a tall man. Mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses, easy smile, introducing him as Mark from the library. Ethan shook his hand, grip firm, Mark's eyes kind but assessing. "Pleasure, Ethan. Sarah speaks highly of you." "Likewise." The words tasted ash. They chatted weather, avoiding the undercurrent. But Ethan saw the way Mark touched her elbow, protective, and something in him cracked. Not rage, but envy for that openness. Later, as dusk fell and fiddles wailed from the bandstand, Caleb found him by the bonfire, faces glowing orange. "Saw you with him. You okay?" Ethan shrugged, beer warming his hand. "She's happy. That's something." Caleb pulled him into the shadows of a cider tent, kissing him quick and fierce. "But are you?" Before Ethan could answer, a voice cut through. "Ethan?" Sarah, emerging from the crowd, eyes wide. They sprang apart, Caleb's hand dropping like scorched. "Hey, sis." Caleb recovered first, grin easy. "Just grabbing drinks." She nodded, but her gaze flicked between them, sharp. "Mark wants to dance. You two coming?" "In a bit," Ethan said, voice steady. She hesitated, then melted back into the throng. "Close?" Caleb breathed, forehead to Ethan's. "We can't keep this up." "I know." Ethan cupped his face. "Soon, I promise." But promises frayed 2 days later. Jake called Ethan into the office at the store, face grim. "Heard some talk. Folks saying you and Kel been thick as thieves. More than brothers-in-law oughta." Ethan's blood iced. "Gossip. You know how it is." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Yeah, but in this town, gossip sticks. And Sarah's been asking questions. Subtle, but she's digging." Panic clawed. That night, Ethan confronted Sarah over pasta, steam rising like unspoken accusations. "People are talking. About me and Caleb." Her fork stilled. "What kind of talking?" "The kind that kills marriages." He met her eyes, steady. "Sarah, there's truth to it." Silence stretched, taut. Then soft, "I knew." The late nights, the looks. "How long?" "Months." Shame burned. "I'm sorry. I love you, but not like that. Not anymore." Tears tracked her cheeks. "And him? Do you love him?" "Yes." The word freed him, light as air. She nodded, wiping her face. "Then go. Be happy. I want that for both of us." Relief warred with grief. They hugged, sobbing, the end of a chapter closing gentle. "Friends?" she whispered. "Always." Ethan packed a bag that night, heart pounding, driving to Caleb's under starless skies. He knocked, and Caleb opened, eyes lighting like dawn. "You're here. I'm yours." They tumbled inside, kisses salt-tinged with tears, bodies joining in celebration and catharsis. Slow, worshipful, Ethan learning to give as much as take. Their union a vow sealed in gasps and grips. But dawn brought reality. Sarah texted, "Told Mark. He's supportive. But town will talk. Be careful. Ethan showed Caleb, who cursed low. We leave. Now. Not yet. Ethan kissed his shoulder. Face it here. On our terms. Caleb searched his face, then nodded. Together. Yet whispers spread like wildfire. At the diner, the dock, the store where customers eyed Ethan sly, Jake pulled him aside. "'Cause, this ain't California. Folks here, they judge. Leching." But doubt seeded, small and insidious. The climax brewed at the town hall meeting, budget vote, but tensions high over family values curriculum. Ethan and Caleb attended, hands brushing under the table, solidarity. Then Mrs. Hargrove, prune-faced widow, stood. "And while we're on values, what's this about certain indiscretions? Undermining our Christian community." Murmurs rippled. Eyes turned. Ethan stood, voice steady. "If you're talking about me and Caleb, yeah. We're together. Love each other. Deal with it." Gasps, applause, split down middle. Hargrove sputtered, but the mayor called order. Outside, a crowd waited. Some jeering, others clapping Caleb on the back. "'Bout time, Thorne." In the chaos, Ethan felt alive, exposed but free. Caleb pulled him close, kissing bold under street lamps. "Proud of you, but freedom cost." Next day, the store lost suppliers, whispers turning cold shoulders. Sarah called, voice tight. "Mark's family heard. They're not happy, but we're okay." Ethan ached for her. "You deserve better. So do you." That night, alone with Caleb, they talked future. Portland, a fresh start. But as they made love, tender and fierce, Ethan wondered if roots ran too deep to sever. Winter clamped down on Whispering Pines like a vice, snow blanketing the hills in hush-white silence. But the town's underbelly churned with the heat of scandal. Ethan and Caleb moved into the cottage together, Sarah gracious in the handover, packing her things with Mark's help, leaving the Victorian to echo empty. "Sell it," she said at the door, hugging Ethan tight. "Start new." Her eyes held no bitterness, only a quiet resolve that humbled him. Mark waited in the drive, patient, and as they drove off toward a life unyoked, Ethan waved, grief mingling with gratitude. The cottage became sanctuary. Walls papered in sea charts, Ethan's sketchpad reclaiming space on the table where head doodled Caleb's profile while chowder simmered. Mornings started with coffee shared in bed, Caleb's legs tangled in his, lazy kisses evolving into slow lovemaking. Hands exploring scars and freckles, mouths mapping desires voiced and unspoken. "You're beautiful," Caleb would murmur, tracing the curve of Ethan's hip, and for the first time, Ethan believed it, shedding the skin of the manhood hidden. But the town tested them. At the store, now just Ethan's, Jake bowing out with a gruff, "Needs space" from the drama. Customers thinned, locals crossing streets to avoid the queer hardware guy. Ethan hammered signs for clearances, the clang a defiant rhythm, while Caleb brought lunches from the boat, his presence a shield. "They'll come around," he'd say, but his eyes shadowed with old wounds, the high school taunts, the fatherhood called him weak before the cancer took him. One blizzard night, isolation bit deep, power flickered out, wind howling like banshees, and they huddled by the fireplace, embers casting gold on Caleb's skin. Ethan sketched him then, charcoal smudging fingers, capturing the angle of his jaw, the vulnerability in repose. "What's this for?" Caleb asked, stirring. "You. So I never forget how you look right now. Peaceful." Caleb smiled, soft, pulling him down. "As if you could." Their lovemaking was urgent that night, bodies slick with sweat, Ethan pinning Caleb's wrists, learning dominance and thrusts that drew gasps. "Yes, like that," until release crashed, leaving them curled, breaths fogging the air. But peace fractured come spring, when betrayal slithered in unexpected. Sarah called one April morning, voice trembling. "Ethan, it's Mark. He left." Said the town talk was too much, his kids' exes wouldn't understand. "I'm alone again." Rage surged, Hot. That bastard. Ill. No. She laughed, brittle. It's okay. Clears the fog. But I miss you. As friends. They met at the diner neutral ground, booths scarred by years of hash secrets. Sarah looked thinner, eyes shadowed, but her hug was warm. You look happy, she said over eggs. He treats you right? More than right. Ethan squeezed her hand. You'll find yours. Someone who'd fight for you. She nodded, tears brimming. I hope so. And Ethan, forgive me for not seeing you sooner. The real you. Forgiven. Long ago. The encounter stirred old loyalties, making Ethan cling tighter to Caleb. But seeds of doubt sprouted. Whispers that Caleb had known about Mark, had warned him off once, jealousy flaring. Did you? Ethan confronted over dinner, fork down. Caleb's face paled. Talked to him, yeah. Told him Sarah deserved better than a coward. Didn't think head bolt.
Jesus, cal.
Hurt lanced. You meddled. In her life. Protected her. Like family. Caleb's voice rose. She's my sister. And you're mine now. Ethan stood, chair scraping. But trust? That's shattered. He stormed out, walking the bluff until lungs burned. Waves crashing recriminations below. Hours later, he returned, finding Caleb on the porch, eyes red-rimmed. I'm sorry, Caleb whispered, pulling him into rain-kissed arms. Love makes me stupid. Fierce. Forgive you? Ethan murmured, kissing salt from his lips. They reconciled inside, apologies turning to touches. Gentle at first, Caleb on knees, mouth worshipful. Then Ethan guiding him to bed, body sinking in forgiveness, deep and healing. Summer swelled, tourists flooding for lobster fests, and with them, opportunity. A Portland gallery scout visited the store, drawn by Ethan's sketches displayed on a whim, and offered a show. Raw talent, the woman said, flipping pages. Urban grit meets coastal soul. Ethan stared, disbelieving. Me? Paint? Caleb grinned later, toasting with beer. Told you. You're more than hardware. The news emboldened, but conflict brewed anew. Caleb's boat, old girl from the sea, sprang a leak during a haul, repairs eating savings. Need a loan, he admitted, shamefaced. Or ill lose her. Ethan wrote the check without hesitation, but unease lingered. Weeks later, rifling for tax forms, he found receipts. Repairs paid cash, dated before the ask. You lied, he said, paper trembling. Why? Caleb deflated.
Pride.
Didn't want to seem weak. Borrowed from Dad's old account instead. Empty now. From Sarah's inheritance? Ethan's voice cracked. You used family money? After everything. Planned to pay back. But guilt etched his face. Ethan, out. The word gutted him. Caleb left, bag slung, the door clicking final. Alone, Ethan drowned in whiskey, memories assaulting. First kisses, shared dawns, the way Caleb said his name like home. Betrayal stung deeper than Sarah's. This was love, weaponized by secrets. Days blurred, store autopilot, sketches abandoned. Sarah visited, bearing pie. Heard. Want me to talk to him?
No.
But yes, she hugged him. Love blinds us, but it heals too. Caleb returned a week later, soaked from a squall, eyes haunted. I fucked up. Pride's my demon. But losing you? That's hell. Ethan wavered, heart aching. Prove it. No more lies. Swear. They collided, kisses desperate, clothes shed in hall. Against wall, Caleb's back arching as Ethan entered. Thrusts punishing then tender, cries mingling with rain. Never again, Caleb gasped, coming undone. In afterglow, promises renewed, but scars lingered, trust a fragile mend. Fall brought the gallery opening in Portland, city lights a bomb, Ethan's canvases hung. Swirling blues of harbor fog, figures entwined in pine shadows, raw emotion in every stroke. Caleb stood proud beside him, hand discreet on small of back, as strangers praised. Your lovers in every line, one murmured. High on validation, they drove home buzzed, pulling over on a back road, windows fogging with urgency. Seat reclined, Caleb's mouth hot, Ethan's hands fisting hair, release shuddering through like thunder. But climax loomed. Winter solstice, a storm unearthed old letters in the cottage attic. Caleb's, to a lover in California, dated last year. Miss you, but this guy Ethan's got me twisted. Can't act on it, he's straight, married. But God, the dreams. Ethan read, gutted. Twisted? You used me as fantasy fodder. Caleb woke to the papers, face ashen. Ancient history. Before you crawled into my bed. Fury boiled. Was it pity? Or conquest? Love, Caleb roared. From the start. Those were doubts, not deceit. But doubt festered. I need space. Ethan left, crashing at Sarah's. Now solo again, her guest room a limbo. Days stretched, Ethan wandering harbor, sketching waves that mirrored turmoil. Caleb texted please, Sarah mediated. He's broken without you. And you? Hollow. Confrontation came New Year's, fireworks popping over pines. Caleb waited at bluff, bottle in hand. Read them all? Good. See the mess I was. But you fixed me. Ethan stepped close, wind whipping. Did I? Or was it convenience? Caleb dropped to knees, not submission but plea. Test me. Ask anything. Tell me the worst. The betrayal you hide. Caleb swallowed. Told Sarah. About us. Months ago. She knew, encouraged. Said you needed freedom. Shock reeled. She knew. Loved you enough to let go. Caleb's eyes shone. Like I do. Truth cascaded, betrayals reframed as love. Ethan hauled him up, kissing fierce, tears salting. Idiot. We could've. Together now. They made love under stars, blankets on grass, bodies urgent. Ethan atop, driving deep, Caleb's legs wrapped, moans lost to wind. Climax shattered, binding. Spring thawed, trust rebuilding brick by brick. But the real storm? Ethan's diagnosis, prostate shadow on scan, routine check turned terror. The doctor's words landed like a nor'easter in June. Calm seas 1 minute, chaos the next. Early stage, Dr. Ellis said in the sterile Portland office, charts glowing on screens. Prostate, caught it soon, surgery, radiation, good odds. But odds meant nothing when Ethan stared at the wall, imagining scalpels carving out pieces of him, the man Caleb loved. He drove home numb, pines blurring, pulling into the cottage gravel with hands white-knuckled on wheel. Caleb was gutting mackerel on the porch, knife flashing silver, innards plopping into buckets. He looked up, smile fading at Ethan's face. What? Talk to me. Clinic. Ethan choked. Cancer. The knife clattered. Caleb surged, arms crushing. Fuck. How bad? They sat on steps, Ethan recounting numbers, timelines, the hollow ache in his gut. Caleb listened, tears tracking silent. Then, well, fight it. Together. Boat money goes to treatment.
No.
Ethan gripped his hand. We save her. This insurance covers most. But fear gnawed of weakness, of losing the body that finally felt his own, of burdening Caleb. Nights, head wake sweating, dreams of hospitals morphing to empty beds. Caleb walking away. Sarah arrived next day, arms full of casseroles, hugging fierce. You idiot. Why didn't you call? She fussed, organizing schedules, her strength a buoy. Mark was ancient history. Shed started volunteering at the women's shelter, finding purpose in stories like theirs. Hidden pains surfacing. Tell me you're scared, she said later, over tea, Caleb out netting. Terrified, Ethan admitted, voice small. What if? Am not me after. You'll be you. Bolder. She squeezed his knee. And hell stick. Real love does. Prep consumed summer. Scans, consults, Ethan sketching obsessively. Distorted figures in white coats, waves swallowing docks. Caleb countered with normalcy. Picnics on bluffs, hands held bold now, townsfolk nodding wary acceptance. At the fair, they danced, fiddles wailing, bodies close, whispers fading to shrugs. Surgery day dawned fog-shrouded. Caleb pacing hospital hall, Sarah beside, her hand in his family reformed. Hours stretched. Ethan woke groggy, tubes snaking, but Caleb there, fingers laced. "Missed you," he whispered, kissing knuckles. Recovery was hell, pain lancing, nights dosed on opioids, body betraying with incontinence pads crinkling like shame. Intimacy faltered. Ethan turned away. "Not sexy like this." "Bullshit." Caleb slid behind, spooning gentle.
Jure mine.
"All of you." Kisses rained forehead, jaw, no demand, just presence. Slowly, touches returned. Fingers tracing scars, mouth soft, building to hands stroking lazy, release mutual and affirming. "See? Still us." Caleb breathed, holding him through aftershocks. Radiation followed, weekly treks to Bangor, Ethan fading, nausea, fatigue etching hollows. Caleb adapted meals, ginger teas and broths, reading poetry aloud, Whitman raw and queer, voice steady when Ethan's wasn't. "Keep fighting," head say, eyes fierce. But doubt crested mid-fall, leaves rotting underfoot. A checkup showed clear margins, but Ethan fixated on sides. Erectile glitches, a phantom ache. "What if I can't be enough?" He confessed one night, fire crackling. Caleb knelt, hands on thighs. "Enough? You're the sea, Ethan, deep, endless. We adapt. Toys, hands, mouths. Hell, just holding works." Demonstration followed. Oil-slicked fingers probing, Caleb's tongue skilled, drawing gasps until Ethan arched, spilling with a cry. "Plenty," Caleb grinned, licking lips. Gratitude swelled, but external storms raged. The store teetered, lost clients boycotting the gay cancer guy. As one note sneered, Jake returned, grudging. "Can't let family sink." Together, they pivoted online sales, art-themed merch with Ethan's prints. Caleb contributed, boat halls funding ads, his pride swallowing for them. Thanksgiving brought reckoning. Sarah hosted, her apartment cozy, pie from scratch. Mark absent, but a new face. Lena, shelter colleague, sharp wit and kind eyes. "Friend," Sarah clarified, blushing. They toasted health, Ethan raising glass shaky. To surviving. Post-feast, menfolk stepped out for air, Caleb and Ethan on balcony, stars pricking velvet. "Proud," Caleb murmured, arm around waist. "Through the shit. Couldn't without you." Kiss deepened, hands wandering under coats, but Lena's laugh pulled them back, reality intruding gentle. Winter deepened, treatments winding, Ethan stronger, walks lengthening, sketches vibrant. One eve, he unveiled a canvas, them, entwined on bluff, faces tender, see eternal behind. For the gallery, us, Caleb teared. "Beautiful, like you." They celebrated slow, bath drawn steaming, Caleb's hands soaping, massaging knots, evolving to strokes underwater, Ethan returning favor, mouths meeting slick. Bed followed, Ethan topping tentative, body responding, hardening full, thrusts measured, Caleb's moans encouragement. "Yes, home," climax shared, sealing recovery. But climax loomed larger. Spring unearthed buried grudge. Hargrove at town council, pushing ordinance. Protecting values. Code for barring alternative events. Whispers targeted their planned pride picnic. First for Pines. Ethan fumed. "Won't let her." Caleb nodded. Fire kindled. "Fight." They rallied, Sarah organizing, Jake hauling tables, even old lobstermen signing petitions. Meeting night, hall packed, Hargrove droning. Immoral influences on youth. Ethan rose, voice amplified by scars. Immoral? Love's what built this town, families, friends. Mine includes Caleb. We pay taxes, pull weight. Let us picnic. Applause thundered. Hargrove silenced. Victory tasted sweet. Picnic green with banners, locals mingling. Kids chasing frisbees, beers clinking. Caleb pulled Ethan to edge, kissing open. We did it. But betrayal shadowed. Anonymous call to gallery. Ethan's gay propaganda. Threatening pullout. Scout rang. Apologetic. Navigating backlash. Delay. Rage boiled. Who? Ethan traced call, Hargrove. Confirmed. Confrontation at her porch. Snow melting to mud. Why poison this? She sneered. Protecting souls. From what? Joy. Ethan's voice broke. I fought cancer, lost friends to hate. You'd deny art for bigotry? She faltered, eyes darting. Bible says. Read wider. He left print their portrait. See love. Days later, call reversed. Show on. Hargrove donated. Anonymous. Redemption small, but potent. Summer peaked. Gallery buzz building. Ethan thrived, body reclaiming, heart full. Caleb proposed casual, over lobster. Marry me? Not legal here yet, but vow. Yes. Ring simple, kelp-twisted silver. Ceremony bluff, Sarah officiating. Windswept vows. Through storms, I choose you. Honeymoon boat. Southern sail. Kay's turquoise. Days swam naked, nights deck love. Stars witnesses, bodies fluid. Ethan exploring bottom for first. Caleb's guidance tender, penetration slow. Pleasure blooming mutual. Back. Life settled. Store booming with art tie-ins. Caleb captaining charters. Tourists charmed by the couple. But humanity whispered. Ethan's checkup clear, yet shadow lingered. Recurrence? He voiced fear. Caleb held. One wave at a time. Autumn gilded whispering pines once more. Leaves a carpet of crimson and gold underfoot. But for Ethan and Caleb, the season carried weight. A harvest of trials yielding fuller hearts. The gallery show opened to acclaim. Ethan's canvases drawing crowds from Boston. Critics lauding visceral authenticity. Standing in the loft space, walls alive with their story. Turbulent seas mirroring inner gales. Figures locked in defiant embrace. Caleb squeezed his hand. You shine, he whispered, pride swelling his chest. Reviews poured. Harperthorne's work pulses with queer resilience. A Maine manifesto. Sales funded expansions, store renovations, boat upgrades. Sarah attended opening, Lena on arm. Their budding romance blooming quiet. Proud, she mouthed, hugging Ethan tight. Hargrove even appeared, lurking shadows, but approached hesitant. Your painting moved me. Sorry. Forgiven, Ethan said, simple. Her nod sealed mending, small graces in a world of fractures. Winter whispered in early, snow-dusting pines like confection, and with it, Ethan's 6-month scan. Waiting room sterile, Caleb thumbing magazines, jokes masking nerves. Clear, doctor confirmed, hugging Ethan fierce outside. Clean slate. Relief cascaded. They celebrated raw home, fire roaring, champagne fizzing. Clothes shed slow, Caleb's mouth tracing surgical scar. Reverent, warrior mark. Ethan reciprocated, kneeling, taking Caleb deep, throat working until he shattered, then guiding him down, legs spread inviting. Penetration eased, bodies synced, thrusts building to crescendo, cries harmonizing, release a torrent binding souls. Spring unfurled gentle, town warming, Pride picnic annual now, booths of rainbow lobster rolls, kids waving flags. Jake manned grill, gruff, ain't bad, this family thing. Sarah and Lena danced, hands linked, mirroring Ethan and Caleb, circle complete. But depth called. Caleb dreamed south, warmer climes. Charters in Florida? Or stay? Ethan pondered, sketching horizons. Here, roots deep, but visits, adventures. Agreement sealed lazy morn, sheets tangled, hands lazy stroking, mouths lazy kissing, climax soft wave. Summer swelled, boat christened anew, whispering heart, hauling tourists who gawked at the love story captains. Evenings, deck dinners, stars pricking, stories swapped. Caleb's California ghosts laid. Ethan's boyhood sketches unearthed, shared vulnerable. One dusk, storm brewing, they anchored cove, thunder rumbling distant. Remember first night? Caleb asked, wine glass tilting. Bed crawl, Ethan laughed, pulling close. Shocked straight to truth. Best shock. Kiss ignited, urgent. Deck slick with spray, bodies urgent. Ethan bent over rail, Caleb entering from behind. Thrust sinking waves, wind whipping moans to ecstasy. Fall circled. Anniversary bluff, vows renewed. Rings glinting. Sarah gifted quilt. Stitched memories. Wedding swatch. Boat rope. Gallery ticket. Family forever. But humanism peaked quiet. Hargroville, Ethan visited, soup steaming, talk tentative. Regret the hurt, she rasped. Water under. He left sketch, her porch serene. Peace. Her passing winter, funeral sparse. But Ethan spoke. She sought light late. Honor that. Year turned. Ethan 37. Body whole. Jim reclaiming tone. Love reclaiming fire. Caleb joked. Old man now. Earning playful wrestle tumbling to bed. Pins and nips evolving to passion. Rolls fluid. Ethan riding slow. Caleb's hands guiding hips. Shared peak shuddering. Life layered. Store thrived. Art commissions flowed. Boat charters legend. Sarah wed Lena spring. Small ceremony. Ethan best man. Tears joyful. Full circle, he toasted. Yet depth endured. Nights Ethan woke. Fears whispering. Loss, age, change. Caleb soothed. Always, we evolve. Together. One eve, harbor walk, waves lapping, Caleb halted. Kid? Someday? Ethan stilled. Heart swell. Adopt?
Yeah. Te acham chides, arte, love.
Dream seated, future vast. Climax crested subtle, town vote, equal rights charter. Ethan testified, voice steady, love freeze, let it. Past unanimous, Hargrove's ghost nodding. Post-vote, celebration bonfire, faces aglow, songs rising. Ethan and Caleb slipped woods, pine-needled ground soft, bodies joining earthbound. Urgent, primal, Ethan bottom deep, Caleb above, rhythm forest pulse, release echoing owls. Humanity lingered. Ethan's book, sketches memoir, Tides of Self, published modest, but touching lives. Letters came. Your story saved mine. Caleb read aloud, voice thick. We did that. Yes. Years blurred gentle. Kid arrived. Finn, freckled whirlwind, teaching chaos and joy. Mornings 3 tangled, bed warm. Evenings stories by fire, hands linked. Ethan, 40, sketched family. Caleb tousle-haired, Finn gap-toothed, see eternal. Legacy, Caleb murmured, kissing temple. Love, dusk fell, pines whispering benediction. Freedom won, identity embraced, compassion the tide lifting all.